People who struggle with learning the way that I have my entire life need an antidote to the immobilizing fear of failure when it comes to trying to learn how to do things that they've never done before. I've found that antidote to be three things: finding the right teachers, putting myself in the right environment so that I can actually learn, and also identifying my true motivation for why it is that I want to learn that thing in the first place. I'm here with Mom of All Trades, my first teacher, and the reason that I've done pretty much everything that I've done in life. Say hi, Mom.
Hi.
We wanted to take a project that I'd recently built in the form of this democratic chair and talk about the learning process and what it actually takes to learn new things when we're afraid of failing or not being good enough. And so that's what we're gonna do. After my mom, one of the most instrumental teachers in my life to date is Greg Pennington, a Windsor chairmaker who lives right here in Tennessee. And spoiler alert, he's a big piece of why we ended up moving here in the first place. When I met Greg, I had a few woodworking chops, but I didn't think that I would ever build a Windsor chair. First of all, I honestly didn't think that I could. Square furniture made sense to me. You know, right angles were possible for my brain to kind of comprehend. But, you know, the tedious steps from taking a log and riving out the spindles and then shaping those spindles and then turning the chair parts and then bending the chair back and drawing everything to its perfect temperature so you could put it all together and carving the seat and drilling the legs at the right angles that they have to be drilled at in the seat seemed like too much math for my dyslexic brain to be able to handle. It seemed like too much tedium and too much, you know, monotonous work, and it also just seemed like something that was going to take too long. So I wasn't going to start building a chair because I knew that it would just be another thing that I tried, another project that I was interested in, and then, you know, never did anything with. I have an entire lifetime of unfinished projects, hobbies that I've taken up and abandoned because, you know, I got stuck or bored or distracted by another shiny object. And all of this is evidence that has just been piling up my entire life that I can't do so many things. That pattern carried on most of my life, but when I was 24 years old, I made some discoveries about how I learn and how I process information and what it actually takes to get me to get things done. And woodworking has been a huge vehicle in that figure-outable process, or figuring out-able process.
Finding the right teacher oftentimes comes in finding the right friend.
Yeah, especially in my case, I've had some of my best teachers are friends, you know, like my neighbor Caleb, who we just like turning wrenches together. So he showed me how to work on my car. Or my friend Kate, who also loves farming and will talk to me for hours on end about goat parasite counts in a microscope or whatever else.
That all started for you with your grandpa. And
yeah.
One of the reasons Greg's been such a great teacher for you is because he just reminds us both a lot of who your grandpa was. He's got that strong character, he loves people, he loves working with others, and he really loves what he does. So for you in finding Greg, he helped you in teaching the concepts that you didn't understand. Instead of just trying to explain to you how it did, he sat down with you, just like I did when you were a kid.
Yeah.
We took the time to do it together because you're a collaborative learner. You need to have somebody else doing things with you for you to really grasp the concepts and understand, and then you become a great independent worker. Greg takes concepts that are difficult to understand and he relates them back to something that you really do understand so that you can actually do the work yourself and not just show you how to do it, but actually relate it to something that makes sense in your brain.
Oh, totally. He takes things like when you're carving the seat of a chair, he talks about using a scorp is like scooping ice cream. He talks about when you're using a spoke shave to shape a spindle, you put your pinkies up, and the way that you hold it is kind of like as if you were having tea with the Queen of England. And it's because I've learned how to face my own failure and to learn from my mistakes and not hate them so much. that I'm so passionate about teaching others the same thing.
And that's exactly why I'm building this craft school. And the outpouring of support that we received, the encouragement and just the, hey, keep going, you're gonna get theirs, that we got after posting the little update video that we did on where we're at with this craft school build last week was, I mean, it absolutely floored me. We actually received some anonymous donations and some extra Patreon support that really got us like close to where we need to be on that goal. And nail by nail, every little bit that we can put towards this build is gonna get us there. One of the other big things that's getting us closer to that goal is one of my main sponsors from the beginning of this channel, Woodcraft. Woodcraft is another huge supporter of education in craft, and they sponsor other YouTubers like me, but they also have classes at their actual locations. And when I still lived in Seattle, Woodcraft was one of my favorite places to go to take classes. They also are one of the few remaining brick and mortar places where you can actually go and get solid woodworking advice when you have questions, where you can go and try out tools in store. And Woodcraft has also given me a little bit of encouragement with our online classes as well, in the form of making sure that we had all of the equipment that we needed to get my little barn woodworking shop up and running, so we can start offering actual woodworking classes online in the meantime as well. And that's just huge. So if you want to support a company that is supporting me and supporting the content that you like, please head on over to woodcraft.com or go to your local stores today.
Once you've found a great teacher, whether it is an actual physical person or a book or a video or anything else, the best thing that you can do next is to put yourself in the right environment to learn. And that environment can be a physical place, like Greg's shop is a physical place that I go to with the intention of building a chair, and that definitely helps. But it can also be building a routine around a certain action. So a lot of athletes will listen to a very specific playlist for a very specific amount of time before they go out onto the field and compete. And that really that's putting themselves in the right environment for whatever it is that they're trying to accomplish. Another piece of putting yourself in the right environment to learn is finding something to anchor you. So if you are the kind of person like me who gets super easily distracted or sidetracked or whatever else, you need something to be your anchor, like an actual anchor on a boat that'll remind you why you're there, what you're doing, and those kinds of things. And again, it can be, something that you place there, like a physical object that you place there. Sometimes I'll use timers so that I know, hey, for 21 minutes, this is exactly what I'm doing, and I'm not going to do anything else. Or it can be a physical person. And I mean, growing up, one of the only reasons I was able to finish school was because my mom was that physical person. She literally would sit with me and painstakingly force me to do whatever it was that I was doing. And it wasn't necessarily that she was helping me do it. It was literally her physical presence reminded me what it is that I was trying to accomplish. But then, of course, your physical presence also actually did my homework for me a lot of the time because I couldn't and all that stuff.
We found that the traditional classroom for Annie really was just not a very good environment for her to be in. It didn't stimulate learning for her because it was too many distractions. There was just too much chaos. And so in doing things, it's actually very rare that she really ever needed very much help with her homeworks from school. School was not that difficult for her for the work. It's just that it was very difficult for her to do it in the environment that she was in because she used 100% of the energy she had trying to sit still.
Building a Windsor chair is an insane amount of work. It is slow, it's tedious, it's repetitive, and none of those things are things that I've ever been good at, but tons of things in life are actually like that. So I've had to find tons of ways around it. And putting myself in the right environment and finding the right anchors for me has been a big piece of getting around that.
Greg's shop really is a good place for you to learn because so many of the distractions are taken away. You can't use your phone. You can't answer all of the incoming mails because Wi-Fi doesn't work over there. You can be in a place where you have a friend who is there and who's going to sit alongside and who's going to talk to you while you're doing things. There's a warm fireplace. You're not going to get cold while you're over there, which is a huge motivator for you.
You know that's a huge motivator.
I can see why you just love being there because you have the ability to do something that is very complex also tedious, also long, you can count on the fact that you are going to finish the chair simply because you've got a good friend that you look up to who's there. That in itself is a big motivation. He wants you to succeed, so you want to succeed.
Yeah.
And he will help you to understand the things that don't make sense to you with the angles and how to take it, and there's lots of patience.
Yeah. Greg is a fountain of patience. I think that's another thing about a good teacher is that they're patient, that you feel safe learning with them. You feel safe failing in front of them. Another really great thing about Greg is I can tend to be a little bit of a perfectionist and really just like kind of hyper-focus on something once I get started and then spend too long doing it. But he has a phrase that I just love. He always says, "It's chairmaker perfect." So I mean, he lets any preconceived ideas about perfection go right out the window, and also he's been doing it long enough that he knows a fix for everything, and so that's another thing that even after my first, second, third, fourth, fifth Windsor chair that I built, I still absolutely love being around him and watching him build, because he has so many just amazing fixes for so many problems. Ultimately, whether or not we have a good teacher or we can manufacture the perfect environment, the one thing that will get us through, that will get the ball rolling and keep it rolling to the very end, is identifying our true motivation. And this is true, far beyond chair making or anything else. Knowing what it is that is actually behind whatever desire you have to do whatever thing is going to be the thing that sees you through. And that requires a very significant amount of self-awareness and kind of introspection. I like a whole lot of things. I like a whole lot of things enough to get started doing all of them. But when I hit a speed bump or when I get stuck or whatever else, the only thing that I have found that actually sees me through those tough bits is knowing what it is that is actually behind all of those things. The only thing that truly motivates me, and this is gonna sound a little bit cheesy, but we're gonna go with it, is love. The only thing that is going to get me to scrape bottom and to get a shovel and start digging when things get hard is love. Liking woodworking as a hobby is not going to get me to the finish line when it's 3 a.m. I've been working 4 days straight and I have a client piece due at 8 a.m. the next morning. Liking baby goats is not going to have me out of bed at 5:15 every single morning, no matter how I feel, no matter what the weather is, no matter the fact I haven't had a vacation in 5 years, or if I'm sick or I'm busy or I'm tired or anything else. What is going to get me out of bed and get me down to the milking barn to milk at 5 a.m. is the fact that I know my goats are counting on me. I know that they have no one else but me to rely on, and I am not going to let them down. Truly understanding our why, and I mean our actual why we are doing the things that we're doing, is the thing that will see us through those hard bits. And so, like I said, that just takes some real honest introspection.
Anne's motivation has always been love. She has a heart that is bigger than anyone else that I know, and it's truly people who motivate her to do everything that she does.
I definitely did not start out as Anne of all trades. I struggled through school. I was bullied horribly when I was a kid. I spent so much of my life hating the things that made me different from the other kids around me, and feeling stupid and feeling like I couldn't do things because I couldn't do it the same way that they did. But to be totally honest with you, the way that I moved through that and moved past that was because I learned how to love my own failure. I learned how to love my mistakes and to see them as learning opportunities. And again, that sounds so cheesy, but it's honestly the truth. And the only way that I was able to do that was because it was constantly modeled to me by my mom. She was the best teacher I could have possibly had, because whether she realized what she was actually doing or not, she sat with me, she encouraged me, she provided that learning environment, she was that anchor, and she truly helped me to identify my motivation. I'm not stupid, I'm not incapable. I'm actually, some of the things that make it really hard for me to learn like regular people are actually superpowers if I'm able to harness them the right way, and she taught me all of that. 8 years ago, I wanted to drastically change the course of my life. I was working in the tech industry and sitting in front of a computer for 12 hours a day, and I needed to get out. But I honestly didn't know how to get out. I didn't know what it was that I needed to do, so I just started doing what I thought was the right thing, which is I went on Craigslist and I got a couple used tools. I dug up my backyard and I planted a garden, and I started posting about those things on a little website called Instagram. Really what I had to do first was take stock of what I had and start doing something. So many people ask me how to get started in woodworking, how to get started in farming, how to start their small business, and the answer for all of them is the exact same thing. Use what you've got to get what you need. And that's something I learned from Grandpa, your dad, who lived through the Great Depression. He always said, like, what do you have and how can we use it to make something work? Finding the right teacher in Greg revolutionized my ability to do all kinds of woodworking. He took a project that I thought I would never be able to do and made it approachable and provided the right environment and the right anchoring and helped me to get through those roadblocks. And then that project that I couldn't do got me on the cover of Popular Woodworking. My weird way of learning things has helped me to teach so many other people all kinds of things as well, and that is exactly why I'm building a craft school. You can see how 3 friends and I are building my next impossible dream, an enormous craft school, in this video. I will see you there. Cheers.